Okay, Barnes is in the backdrop. Let's get this show on the road. Sir, can you believe, I'm not even going to ask you, can you believe what the hell is going on in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a long relationship between the Western intelligence sources and Pentagon military industrial complex and the Nazi regime, particularly as it concerns Ukraine. But it's still quite extraordinary that you have the Canadian Prime Minister and all the Canadian politicians gathering to publicly cheer a member of one of the most infamous SS Nazi units in world history that was so vicious and vile. Even the Nazis thought they went too far. It's really, and the media hiding. The same media that was obsessed in Canada with whether or not there was one Nazi flag somewhere to smear the truckers are completely, they just can't find the Nazi getting cheered right there in front of the whole parliament. They're like, what? What? Can't. Where? Huh? It shows what utter frauds they are.
It's so mind-blowing that I after I tweeted out, I'm like, I was nervous that I made a mistake. Did I misunderstand what SS was? I mean, I Googled all of it. It was in the the Schutzstaffel was a major paramilitary organization under Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in Nazi Germany and later throughout German-occupied Europe during World War II. It began as a small guard unit known as the Saalschutz, made up of party volunteers to provide security for party meetings in Munich. Like, I thought I was misunderstanding something. Like, maybe he's not exactly what he is or was exactly what he is. And like, I'm just waiting for someone to say, well, that was a long time ago, and he needed to fight the Soviets because now they're the enemy. But then when he fought them, he was fighting our allies at the time. They don't understand anything. Now, do you think it's worse or better that he was a volunteer?
How brutal that regime was. I mean, not only was there, it was just dehumanizing. It was not only just rape, sexual assault, but the way in which they killed children and women was unbelievable. Like I said, hardcore Nazis were shocked by how nuts the Western Ukrainians were. And I mean, people forget during World War II, of the leading Ukrainian nationalist organization publications were actually banned in the United States and Canada because of how pro-Nazi they were. I mean, this goes way back. And this is who we've been aligned with all along. Zelensky knew exactly what he was doing by having the Canadians and everybody cheer him. It's to glorify and glamorize their Nazi past. I mean, they're now making postage stamps in Ukraine of Bandera. And so it's just, the war whores like that fraud grifter Sebastian Gorka, well, he needs to start issuing apologies for this kind of nonsense. But he won't because he and his wife are usually busy pimping themselves out for what cash they can make in D.C. while pretending to be true Trump supporters. Anybody who is pro-Ukraine should be embarrassed and humiliated by now. Not only at the utter debacle that is the military effort, not only the utter waste of money, but they went into bed with the nastiest, one of the most vicious, ugly regimes in the history of the world.
Robert, do we forgive him, or is he even guiltier for being a volunteer? Part of me says, okay, he was a volunteer.
Oh, volunteer. They were all volunteers. I mean, that's what was nuts about. These were the Ukrainian far right, far national, extremist nationalists who the Poles originally locked up because they were busy committing terrorism against Poland. They weren't mostly anti-Russian through their history. They're mostly anti-Polish through their history. And that's why they were eager to sign up with the Nazis to get back at the Poles and to get at Jews. That was their primary target. The primary target was never Russians or other Ukrainians. It was other than Jewish Ukraine. It was to get at the Poles and get at the Jews. That's who they are, and that's who they've been celebrating now in Ukraine for ever since the Color Revolution, that other fake revolution in 2004. Maidan coup, of course, repeated that, recreated it, but it goes further back. See, I go back, research Operation Gladio. I got a whole hush hush at it on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I have a hush hush on the Ukrainian history of how we recruited ex-neo-Nazis. Didn't even call themselves Ukrainian, by the way. When they first came over to the U.S., they called themselves Ruthenian. I mean, it's weird to say, I am a borderlander. That's what it means in their language. They consider themselves the original Rus, in fact. But they've always been ethnic nationalists, the far Western Ukrainians. They've always been a little nuts. And like I said, even the Nazis found him too insane, too vicious, too vile. And that's the regime this guy gladly and proudly volunteered for.
What do we make of the fact the argument is going to be, well, they can't be that big of Nazi regime because they have a Jewish president?
Yeah, it's like, so what? I mean, well, one, Zelensky's as Jewish as Barack Obama's an African American. So there's a lot of asterisk by that. It's not exactly like he's some religiously it shows how utterly irrelevant Jewish status generally is in today's political age. It generally means almost nothing. It tells you almost nothing about the person's political beliefs, cultural orientation, almost anything. Outside of certain contexts, it's just very, very limited. The sensitivity to the Holocaust, that's about the only common denominator of people of Jewish background. And Zelensky is ultimate proof of it. I mean, the guy who helped found the modern version of the Maidan groups was also a Jewish oligarch who fled to Israel when he was under corruption investigations because he wasn't playing ball with he thought he elected Zelensky, not the deep state. Found out otherwise. It's one of those most irrelevant, insignificant, inconsequential facts that could possibly exist.
I mean, it's so ironic. Who's the guy that they just blew up in the plane? Who might not be dead? What was his name? Was it Porsche? No, not Porsche. Boghossian. Also Jewish. So like you got your Jewish evil people on the Russian side, and then you got your Jewish saviors on the Ukrainian side. And this is funny. I'm going to bring this up before we get into the subject. Ian says, sounds like to me Nuremberg missed a war criminal. Wonder what Israel would do with an SS officer. You make the joke.
Are hiding the Canadian history on this. Canada was arguably as bad, if not worse, on a per capita basis than the U.S. at bringing in Nazis. Especially Ukrainian Nazis. Canada loved those. I mean, what's her name? Wasn't her grandfather a Nazi?
Christian Newland. Not Christian Newland. Christian Freeland. Sorry.
Freeland, a current leader in Canada, comes from Nazi stock. I mean, it's not a surprise.
Well, and also to this, I would say, the Nuremberg, they missed a lot of war criminals because a lot of them were brought in with Operation Paperclip into the States because they were vying for the war criminals.
Throughout the West, they were placed. Stepan Bandera was protected by West Germany and the United States. And he was the founder of the Ukrainian nationalists that they all celebrate. And if you look at his version of Ukrainian nationalism, it's ethno-nationalism. It's very manifestly ethno-nationalism. So it's pure, it's true Nazi ideology. And it goes way, way back. And they've been trying to hide it for as long as they possibly can in the press. But the Canadian Parliament, got tricked into cheerleading it because this is what happens when you're just blindly obedient to the deep state, like so many American politicians and Western politicians are.